Hey guys, so you're thinking about homeschooling and you want to know more about educational philosophies so that you can sort through the enormous amount of homeschool curriculums out there. In my last video, we covered several different educational philosophies. We started on the spectrum of different philosophies over here at Unschooling. We covered unschooling, interest-based learning, and Charlotte Mason. Now we're moving towards more of a traditional style of education, starting with a literature-based curriculum. Now, literature-based curriculum relies heavily on certain ideas of Charlotte Mason. The idea that a child is best engaged through powerful narrative, and you can use those powerful narratives and multiple sources of information to engage their mind in the subject matter, is an idea that comes from Charlotte Mason. But instead of thinking about educating the whole child, you're really just thinking academics at this point. A lot of homeschool curriculum is literature-based. Sunlight, Bookshark, Beautiful Feet. A lot of them would even say, you're keeping that in there? So literature-based curriculum focuses hard on excellent literature that engages the child's mind and imagination and helps them relate to the subject better than if they had just read a textbook. So if you want to learn about World War II, you do better to read an autobiography or a historic fiction book. I definitely fall strongly in this camp. I love using a literature-based curriculum for my kids. I honestly just super love books. So it's really fun to me to get to snuggle up on the couch and read these books with them. I feel like they just remember history better when it's approached from a literature standpoint. Like I said, it's not full on Charlotte Mason, but it's definitely Charlotte Mason-y. And a lot of those curriculum even say that they're Charlotte Mason, even though they're not actually fully Charlotte Mason. All right, our next philosophy, we're getting closer to traditional by looking at a classical education. Now, a classical education is an education that focuses on literature, logic, and language. You learn how to debate and how to think well. You learn Latin. You read excellent literature. In the process of training you very much in like liberal arts, it is really a great educational philosophy that's been around for a long time. You see a lot of private schools that also follow a classical education philosophy. The biggest curriculum probably for classical education is Classical Conversations. You've probably heard about it. There are chains of their co-ops all over the country. Just in my area, I think there's 5 or 6 within like a 20-mile radius of different Classical Conversations communities. It really is excellent. However, just like everything else, it's not going to work for every kid in my opinion. If your child has learning disabilities, it may not be the best fit for them. I will say my oldest child probably had the closest to a classical education. He has an excellent memory, which really lends itself well to a classical education philosophy. I don't think it would work as well with my 9-year-old who is dyslexic. But I love a classical educational philosophy. I think it's great. I love Latin and teaching your kids logic and the liberal arts. Now we're going to arrive at traditional. Now, a traditional education philosophy is probably one that you're familiar with. When people think of homeschool curriculum, they usually think of traditional. A traditional homeschool curriculum is generally one that has been designed to be used in a classroom setting. Think of Rebekkah or Bob Jones or Rod and Staff. They were originally designed to be used in a private school classroom and have been adapted for homeschooling. This is going to be textbooks, history books that only rely on one perspective, traditional math textbooks. These programs are time tested and have been used for a long time. When I was growing up and being homeschooled, it felt like Rebekkah and Bob Jones were your only two options. There were other things available, but nearly everybody used Rebekkah and Bob Jones. Thankfully, there are a lot of other options now, many of which I think work better in a homeschool environment. However, if your concern is having your child being ready to transition back into a classroom setting, going with a traditional homeschool curriculum may be the best fit for you. Also, if your child has learning disabilities and needs a curriculum that spirals around the same subject matters over and over and over again, like especially with math, where they really need to practice those multiplication facts like every day, all year long, then something that's more traditional like this, Rebekkah, Bob Jones, Saxon math, something like that might be a better fit. It's just something to consider. Now we're gonna arrive at the last educational philosophy that we're gonna cover, and it's not actually an educational philosophy, and it's not actually homeschooling, but because this is an option that a lot of people have right now, I think it's important to cover it, and that is school at home. Now, school at home is not the same thing as homeschooling for several reasons. One, the government doesn't consider it homeschooling because you are still a public school or charter school student. Two, you are not in charge of your child's education. It's essentially the same as being at school, except you're doing it at home. And this is what a lot of schools are doing next year. This is what a lot of schools were doing in the spring. School at home may be the best fit for your family and your child, but it is not the same thing as homeschooling. I think you're gonna find that traditional homeschooling offers a lot more flexibility than schooling at home. Just something to consider as you're weighing your options for next year. As we finish talking about these different educational philosophies, I want you to know there is not one right way to educate a child. Each child is unique, and the curriculum needed to educate that child may be different for each family. Your family dynamic is not going to be the same. The amount of time that you have to dedicate to your child's education, the number of kids you have, this all varies. So as you explore these options, one, know there's no perfect way. Each different way is going to have problems, but you are capable of meeting your child's needs and finding curriculum that works for them. So please comment below your favorite educational philosophy we talked about in this video and the last video, ones that you're interested in exploring. I'm going to do another video exploring different specifics of each of these philosophies and specific curriculum that's related to them. So please comment below which ones you would like me to cover first, any specific curriculum you want me to review. I have quite a good bit of it that I can review. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye.